I want to say that we have a new member of the family here on my channel. Her name is Theta, and I rescued her. She was a little stray. It was about 3 weeks ago. I'm obsessed with her, and you're probably going to hear her little faint meows in the back of my videos from now on. So get used to it, right? You tell them. Hi. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new to my channel, hello, my name is Gabby and welcome. If you are new to my channel, you've never been to my channel before, never seen a video of mine, but you like true crime cases, that's what I do here on my channel, especially ones that are a little bit older, because the only cases that I cover on my channel are ones that are kind of lost in time. They are all 20 years or older. I cover cases that are less talked about, so if that's something you might be interested in, maybe hit that subscribe button down below, quite possibly turn on the post notifications to be notified every time that I upload. With all that being said, let's get right into the video, because the video today that I have for you guys is another vintage and vanished video. If you don't know what that is, I have a series here on my channel called Vintage and Vanished. The title, pretty self-explanatory. They are cases that are vintage of people who have mysteriously vanished. Today's video is in collaboration with one of my favorite true crime researchers here on the World Wide Web, and that is Anthony, or most of you may know him as Crime Blogger 1983. I will post his blog down below in the description of this video, or you can go to this URL, type that in, go check his stuff out, because he is a phenomenal researcher. I highly recommend checking out some of the cases that he has covered on his blog. So I was talking to him and he asked me if I would cover this case, and of course I was all for it because I trust his research, and of course I did a little bit of research myself, and combining those two things, I feel like I have created a pretty good outline of this case. So I will stop babbling. Let's get right into it. This is the disappearance of Deborah Deann Poe. Deborah Deann Poe, or Debbie as people called her, was born on August 3rd, 1963 to parents Alvin and Nancy Poe in Winchester, a city in Northern Virginia. This was her home, where she grew up, but in the year 1989 she wanted a fresh start and decided to move to sunny Florida, Orlando to be exact. Her friends described her as studious. She made very good grades when she was in school, and she had a wicked sense of humor. She loved ballet, taking 14 years of it, and during her younger years, she expressed her desire to become a professional dancer. She was a fun girl to be around, but at the same time, she could put you in your place if you needed it. She fell in love with Florida in no time, and was determined to make a good life for herself in Orange County. She was a very motivated individual, and people knew she would accomplish her goals if she had the chance to. Unfortunately, this would not be her fate. In February of the year 1990, which was only 4 months after Deborah had moved to Orlando, Florida, she was living in a duplex with her friend Lori Tillman, and at this time she also had a boyfriend named Scott Iaggi. Deborah had a lot of goals in her life, things that she really wanted to achieve, but at this time she mostly wanted to save up for a house, and she also wanted to start her own catering business. So that was the thing that she was most looking forward to, and to try to get there, she had to work more than one job. Her first job was working night shift at a Circle K convenience store that was located near Aloma Avenue and Hall Road in Orlando, Florida. The original building was torn down, but a Citco stands there in current time. Her other job was one she recently got hired for, and that was working for the Orlando Sentinel in the retail sales department as a daytime clerk. When she was hired by the Sentinel family, her boyfriend, friends, and family urged her to quit her job at the gas station. Deborah refused though, because she wanted the extra money to go towards the house and to start her business one day. Deborah's shift was the graveyard shift, and for her that was 11 p.m. at night till 7 in the morning, and nobody in her family wanted her working this shift. She was a young woman. She was working in a place that a lot of people target when it comes to trying to get money out of the cash register or safe. People from out of town, out of state, just driving through the area, stopping to get gas, and then driving off to never be seen again. The people in her life who were closest to her did not want her working in a place that put her in such a vulnerable position, and especially after an incident that happened about 2 weeks before her disappearance, and this incident was extremely terrifying. A naked man entered the store and apparently climbed over the counter towards her. She ran around the store a few times and outside towards the gas pumps. She was able to elude him and get back inside and lock him out. When police got there, he was gone. After this event happened, literally everybody in her life was like, Deborah, please quit working at Circle K. But she told everybody, you know, I'll be okay, I'll be fine, don't worry about me. Now, even though she told everybody this, her boyfriend Scott still wanted to check up on her throughout the night. Not only was he stopping there throughout the night, there were some nights that he stayed there with her the entire night. But she thought she would be okay. She didn't think that she needed anybody there. She didn't think she needed a protector. She didn't think that she needed her boyfriend who loved her and cared about her. She didn't think she needed anybody there with her. She thought she could handle it, or she thought that nothing like that would ever happen again. On February 3rd, 1990, Scott and her went to the Circle K store, and he didn't stay long because he left a little bit after 11 and her shift started at 11. So he left a little bit after 11, and then he decided to come back around 1 a.m., check and see if everything was okay. When he came at 1 a.m., everything was fine, and he went home for the night. Scott said, I told her I thought it was stupid that she was staying there working that shift. There were too many weirdos, too many guys flirting with her, and too many drunks. I started working the night shifts with her for the last month. Then that one night, I listened to her when she said, honey, there's no need for both of us to not get sleep. I don't need you to be my protector all the time. I could kick myself. Around 3 a.m., a friend of Deborah's, I'm not entirely sure which friend this was, there was no names online, but they claimed that they had driven past the Circle K store at around 3 a.m. I'm not entirely sure why they were out at that time, but they said they drove past the Circle K convenience store, and at 3 a.m. they were able to see Deborah behind the counter. So, if this actually happened, at 3 a.m. Deborah was okay. But somewhere between 3 a.m. to 4 a.m., she vanished. Somewhere between 3:15 a.m. to 3:30 a.m., a woman came into the convenience store not realizing who should have been behind the counter that night. Instead of Deborah being behind the counter, she noticed what she described as a white male, muscular build, with long, stringy black hair and a t-shirt with the band MEGADETH on the front of it, with a dragon spitting fire. He also had a skull ring on his finger and a cross earring dangling from his right ear. The customer stated she asked for cigarettes, and the man had trouble finding the brand. The customer had to point to the brand. Upon the purchase, the guy said, "You shouldn't smoke, you know." He seemed to have calmly operated the register and made change. He apparently drove a black van with a MEGADETH mural airbrushed on the side. Soon after, he too vanished. This is the sketch done of what he looked like. Police were never able to locate him. That is, if he ever existed at all. At 4 in the morning, a regular customer just came in the store and they noticed that no one else was in the store. Not this MEGADETH man behind the counter. Deborah wasn't back. There was nobody there. So they thought this looked a little bit odd, so they decided to call the police, and the police showed up almost immediately. They found her brand new red Toyota Celica backed into its parking spot. It was locked, and inside they found her purse, car keys, and paycheck. One would assume her car keys would be on her. Possibly she had a spare. A carton of chocolate milk and a cup of coffee was left on top of a stack of houseplants on the floor behind the counter. Her Circle K smock was also behind the counter, neatly folded. The register was locked and no merchandise appeared to be taken or moved out of place. There was no signs of any struggle. The Orange County Sheriff's Department conducted a search within a 5-mile radius of the store. They brought in helicopters fully equipped with infrared and tracker dogs. The dogs tracked Deborah's scent to the parking lot of an apartment building behind the store, and then to an abandoned building next door. That was as far as the dogs could track her scent. This led authorities to believe that Deborah had been forcibly taken and placed into a vehicle. A former spokesperson for the Orange County Sheriff's Office said that they had no idea if Deborah was forced, say, at knife point or gunpoint, or if she just left the store willingly with somebody she knew, because they didn't really have any leads to go off of. When it comes to Megadeth Man, which yes, I'm going to call him that for the remainder of this video, when it comes to him, the sketch done of him was released to the public, and pretty much all of the calls were very generic. They were from people saying, oh yeah, like I know somebody who looks like that, but it never really went anywhere. And then there was a woman from California who said that she knew somebody who kind of looked like the sketch, who also wore a ring that resembled the ring that Megadeth Man was wearing. Really wasn't much to go off of. Her friends and family members decided to conduct their own search to see if they could find anything that would help them discover what happened to Deborah. They searched orange groves and woods near the Circle K. They searched and searched but found nothing. People who knew her best said she would have never just up and left. She would have never done that willingly, especially without her purse or new car. Her Aunt Judy stated she would never do that. No way. She's so responsible. She's like a little old lady. Not long after her disappearance in August of 1990, human remains were located within a 2-mile radius of the Circle K. What is the coincidence of human bones being found not far from the area a woman disappeared from? Well, apparently very coincidental, because through dental records, they were able to tell that the bones did not belong to Deborah. Everyone's lives flipped upside down, other than people in that area, people that worked late at convenience stores, friends and family of Deborah, just everybody in this community didn't know what to think of this young woman's disappearance. It scared everybody. But her family decided to do what a lot of people do who have mysteries on their hands, and they went to Unsolved Mysteries. They reached out to the television show, and the television show decided to pick up the case and air an episode on Deborah's disappearance. Unsolved Mysteries aired the episode about Deborah's case on November 6th of 1991, and weirdly, Deborah's actual name is spelled Deborah, and the show spelled it Debra. That was the title of the episode, was Deborah, but it was spelled incorrectly. I don't really understand that, but that's a little tidbit. After the episode aired, of course, like most episodes that aired on Unsolved Mysteries, they got a lot of traction. There were a ton of phone calls coming in, but they just really didn't go anywhere. Scott said in an interview, "A lot of people have been coming by. I've been praying and praying. I'm praying they'll let her go and not harm her. I'm praying she comes back. I'd be lying if I said I didn't love her." So we're going to fast forward a few years, about 7 years later, after the episode on Unsolved Mysteries was aired, all the way to March 8th of 1998. And all this time later, there was no substance to this case. They didn't know what else to do, and her family and friends feared that she was dead, so she was legally declared deceased on this date. In the year 2002, though, authorities got what they thought would be a huge breakthrough in this case, the first one in over a decade. They re-examined Deborah's case files, and it led them to a new suspect in the case, one they refused to identify to the public. It also led them to an area in the 8800 block of Treverhan Road near State Road 417. The area of land was near Chapel Hill Baptist Church and was located about 5 miles from the Circle K, and also located not far from the suspect's home. They did a thorough search of the area, including 6 cadaver dogs and many rescue volunteers. 5 of the 6 cadaver dogs picked up the scent of human remains, so they started to dig, but located no remains. The 12 hours ended with nothing to show. The case, again, hit a dead end. Although the identity of this individual, this suspect, was never told to the public, this was the church that her boyfriend was a pastor at. So allegedly, if you put 2 and 2 together, he allegedly was the suspect. When it came to the search of this area, cadaver dogs did smell human remains. They picked up on human remains. But the thing is that even though they didn't find any human remains there when they started digging, doesn't mean that there were no human remains in this area ever. In today's time, not much else has happened when it comes to this case, and if it has, it hasn't been released to the public. And unfortunately, both of Deborah's parents are now deceased, and so is her brother Stephen. Before Deborah's mother had passed away, she was actually the last survivor of the 4 of them. Of course, her daughter Deborah was missing and presumed deceased in 1998, and then her husband had passed away from prostate cancer, and her son, which is so sad, he passed away from hypothermia outside of his home in West Virginia in 2013. So Deborah's mother was the last survivor of her entire family, and she had to basically go through 3 heartbreaks. Of course, you know that you may eventually lose your significant other that you've been married to for so long, the father or mother of your child. You know that you may lose them if you don't go before them, but she had to deal with the loss of both of her children. I cannot even fathom how that affected her mentally. Nancy Poe told the Orlando Sentinel in 2015, before she passed away, "No matter how much time passes, you miss that child terribly, and I keep wondering why I'm still here and all of my family is gone. All you do is hope and pray. I'm starting to lose hope that it won't be solved here in my lifetime on this earth." In this same interview, she also informed them that throughout the years, authorities never updated her regularly on the case or really reached out to her at all when there was new information coming forward, new promising leads, or new suspects. She said that it had been years and years since she had talked to Deborah's roommate Lori and Deborah's boyfriend at the time, Scott. To her, it felt like the memory of Deborah was getting farther and farther away from her. Before I get to the very end of this video, I know that you all really like hearing words directly from a person who was involved in the case or who knew the victim personally. I'm going to read you all a letter that was written to Anthony, or crime blogger, in 1883. It was written by a woman named Tanya, and she was really good friends with Deborah at one time, and she just kind of talks about Deborah as a person and a little bit of her opinions when it comes to the case. "My name is Tanya. I was Debbie's roommate in college for 1 year. We were placed together by the college department and started writing and calling the summer before our first day of school. At first, it was not what I thought and was ready to throw the towel in and get another roommate. I think because I had attended summer school at this location before our freshman year, I was more at ease knowing the campus, faculty, and returning students, which made me more comfortable and more of a social butterfly than her. However, time healed everything and we became inseparable. Our nicknames became Lady D and Lady T over time, and our third culprit was Wendy, and she was Lady W. We were like the Three Stooges. If we were not all 3 together at the same time, one of us was with the other. She was short and petite with brown, natural, curly hair. Never wore a lot of jewelry nor makeup, for that matter of fact. Her posture could also be described as legs somewhat hyperextended and stance with pelvis slightly tucked under. Also very quiet and very private until she got comfortable around you. The one thing that I never knew, because she said that she could not tell me, was what her family did as far as employment. I believe all I knew about her dad was that he worked for the government, and that is all she could or would disclose. Around November, there was an event at the college for parent visitation. I do not recall her parents being in attendance. She never really talked much about her family nor relationships. She came to my home over spring break, and we also traveled to the beach. I never went to her home, nor do I ever recall meeting her parents. Very studious and made good grades. I did learn that she had a way with using her words, and she could put you in your place without you knowing it sometimes. She did not really date anyone while we were there until the spring, and his name was James, a junior at the time, from Keysville, Virginia. Not really sure if they kept in touch. Upon leaving for summer break that year, we both had expectations of starting the next year right where we left off. But that did not happen. Neither of us returned. We continued talking on the phone and writing letters. The last letter I have from her was when she was attending ETSU around 1982 to 1983-ish. Apparently she was attending summer school at ETSU when she wrote this letter. Her roommate was also a member of the Alpha Delta Pi sorority. Deb was also working at the Captain D's and started dating her boss, and she had to quit the job due to store policy. Once again, not sure if she kept up with either of them after leaving to go to Florida. She was also driving a Mazda vehicle, which she had recently wrecked. When we roomed together, she did not have a car at that time. Her letter goes on to talk about the guy she hitchhiked with. His name was Ed, and how he got very physical, leaving her with bruises more than once, and it appears that her mom and dad met him and did not like him. I wish that I could pull into my memory bank and remember the last letter or correspondence we had, but life went on until tragedy struck. Her disappearance was learned when I was changing a diaper in the den floor when Unsolved Mysteries aired. This was not a rerun, it was the original broadcast. As girls, we share things or know/sense things when we live together, and I wish her roommate at the time, Lori, could share more about what she knew of Deb personally. What was going on in her life and with whom? Totally shocks me that she was dating a pastor. We both had bad experiences in college, and I never got the feeling that she was from a spiritual background nor interested. Not to mention the age difference between them. One item I feel that was overlooked was the manager of the store when she worked there and what knowledge he had at the time of her employment. Workers talk to each other too. Never have I seen his name or a statement from him of his account about her or the work environment. It would be so fantastic if after all these years of wondering what happened to her, especially now that her whole family is no longer living, that this mystery could finally be solved. From what I understand, there may be an aunt that is still alive in Gainesville, Georgia. If there's anyone out there that attended school, wrote letters, or had phone conversations that might help, it would be so greatly appreciated. There are several of us college buddies whom still keep in touch that would love to find closure in this matter. She was special. I really wanted to include her letter because it shows Deborah in a more personal way. It's words directly from somebody who was very, very close to her at one time. And the part of this letter that really got me is the fact that she did not hear about Deborah's case until it aired on Unsolved Mysteries. She was not notified in any way. She had not heard it through the grapevine. This was before Facebook and Twitter, and news wasn't given to us as directly worldwide as it is in today's time. And I can't imagine sitting down just thinking that today is like any other day and hearing that one of your really good friends is missing and you may never see them again. This case is 3 decades old, and really the only things that are going to help solve this case are if somebody comes across remains and they are identified as Deborah's and authorities can go from there, or if somebody finally comes forward with a promising lead. Deborah Deann Poe was 26 years old at the time of her disappearance from the Circle K convenience store in Orlando, Florida on February 4th, 1990. She was around 5 feet 3 inches tall and weighed about 105 pounds. She had blue-green eyes and shoulder-length, curly brunette hair with blonde streaks. Some physical characteristics of hers were that she had a burn scar on her upper left arm and her ears were pierced 3 times on each side. At the time of her disappearance, she may have been wearing rings. One was known to be a half-carat round diamond with diamond chips in the shape of a leaf. She was also possibly wearing a sapphire ring as well. If you have any information about the disappearance of Deborah, you are urged to call the Orange County Sheriff's Office at 407-254-7000. Remember that you can stay anonymous. Since Deborah had worked for the Orlando Sentinel at the time that she went missing, her case was actually featured in that paper for 15 years. So I have quite a few opinions when it comes to this case, and a lot of them revolve around MEGADETH Man. Now keep in mind that, and I'm sure a lot of you know what I mean, when it comes to true crime cases, a lot of people come forward with false claims, false accusations, false information. I don't know the woman that came forward claiming that she saw this man behind the counter with the MEGADETH shirt and the MEGADETH van. I don't know her. She could be the most honest human being in the entire world, but it's still an eyewitness account that we don't know if it actually happened or not. Deborah was seen by a friend behind the counter at 3 a.m. and this man was seen by a customer behind the counter somewhere between 3:15 a.m. to 3:30 a.m. Now, there is a chance that this man walked in after Deborah was abducted and pretended to be a worker there, but this time frame is so insanely small. If his car was described as a black van with a MEGADETH mural airbrushed on the side, I mean, how many black vans with a MEGADETH mural airbrushed on the side are driving around that area or anywhere in general? You also have to remember that nothing was taken from the store. No money was taken. Robbery wasn't the motive. If this man is the man who abducted Deborah, then why did he stick around the store? Why didn't he immediately leave with her? If he came in the store after she was abducted, then what was his reasoning for being behind the counter if he didn't take any money? None of it makes any sense. Unless he maybe came back into the store to fold her smock and make it look like there wasn't any struggle, that's maybe an explanation, but who knows? I came across quite a few sources online that claimed that police told the public at one time that MEGADETH Man was thought to be the boyfriend of one of Deborah's co-workers. Not entirely sure if this is true or not, but apparently they thought that he could be the boyfriend of one of her co-workers and that they couldn't track him down. Not entirely sure why he would be so hard to find unless he completely skipped town. So we're gonna get off the topic of MEGADETH Man because I've said everything I really have to say about that. We're gonna move on to another topic, and that has to do with the apartments. Remember how I said the tracker dogs had tracked her scent all the way to where these apartment buildings were near the convenience store, and then they lost her scent and authorities thought that she was probably put into a vehicle and the vehicle drove off. When you think about it, maybe she was not taken into a vehicle, maybe she was taken into one of the apartments. This is an apartment complex right next to a gas station. I can guarantee that every individual who lived in that apartment building had visited that Circle K before at some time. I can only hope that police did a very thorough search of the apartment complex. I couldn't find anything online about whether they went into every single apartment and checked. I couldn't find that information out there. I can only hope that they did that. Also, when it comes to the very terrifying incident that happened 2 weeks before she vanished with the naked man on the counter who she had to lock out and police never found that night, police never were able to track him down in general. They never located this man. And you all are probably wondering about security cameras. I know there were no security cameras outside of this Circle K. Also, if you remember in the letter that Tanya had written to Anthony, she did mention this character named Ed who was physically abusive to Deborah on multiple occasions, and Deborah's parents did not like him. Now, I could not find any information about this man and this case when it came to searching online. The only thing I had heard about this man is from Tanya's letter. From my knowledge, he was never a suspect in this, but we do know that at one time he had physically assaulted Deborah. So I think that maybe that was something to look into, but from my knowledge, it never was. Now, just like with almost every case out there, when it comes to somebody going missing or somebody whose life was taken from them, authorities and the public in general always kind of narrows their vision in on the significant other. The person who was closest to them, the person who knew them the best, the person who may have wanted revenge or had a motive. When it comes to Scott, there's not a lot of information online. It's pretty much, he was her boyfriend, he cared about her. After the incident with the naked man, he stayed with her and he was a possible suspect. That's pretty much it. I could not find anything online about her parents' opinions of him, things that she told to friends about him, whether they got into arguments on the regular or if they had a tumultuous relationship. Nothing. There's not much out there. There is one last theory, a less talked about one, that I want to mention before I end this video. And that is that months earlier, on August 6th, 1989, Donna Callahan, who worked as a convenience store clerk in Gulf Breeze, Florida, about 6 hours away from Orlando in the panhandle of the state, she was abducted, and just like Deborah, she worked the graveyard shift. Her belongings were left behind and there were no signs of a struggle. Also, on September 18th, 1989, Darlene Messer, a convenience store clerk who, again, worked the graveyard shift, was abducted. Her location was Lake City, Florida, about 3 hours from Orlando. The thing, though, is that Donna's body was eventually located, and 2 men were convicted for her murder. The men's names are Mark Reeb and William Wells. And there is speculation that they may have been involved in Deborah's disappearance and Darlene's disappearance, even though their bodies have never been located. The female eyewitness actually picked William Wells out of a police lineup and said that he was the man she saw the night of Deborah's disappearance in the store behind the counter. Both Mark and William were coincidentally together the night of Deborah's disappearance and not far from the area, but it has not been told to the public if they are actually suspects in her disappearance or not. Even though there's not a lot of depth to this theory, it's still one that I wanted to mention nonetheless. And this female eyewitness who brought up this entire thing about Megadeth Man, she picked William Wells out of the lineup and said that he was Megadeth Man. Could I find a photo online of William Wells in the year 1990 to see if he looked like the sketch? No. Did I find any information online about whether he ever had a dark van with a Megadeth mural on the side? No. Without a body to test DNA, I'm not entirely sure how they could prove if William Wells was possibly involved in the abduction of Deborah Deann Poe. Maybe they are working on it, but no information has really come out to the public about that. So that is all of the information that I have for you all about the disappearance of Deborah Deann Poe. This case reminds me a lot about a case that I covered on my channel about 2 months ago, I think, 2 or 3 months ago, and that is the case of Brian Shepard. Brian's case was a little bit different because he was automatically a murder victim. They did find his body in the convenience store, and Deborah is a missing person, but it's kind of the same situation where their families were just overall worried about them. Brian had this entire future. He was with somebody that he cared about deeply. He was in his last year of college. He had all of these life goals, and his family and friends were terrified that he was working this shift late at night by himself. Deborah had recently moved to a new state, a state that she had fallen completely in love with. She had friends. She had pretty much everything at the time kind of figured out. She was saving money. She had a boyfriend that she cared about. She was on the right path. And again, her family, her friends were terrified for her because she was working this shift late at night by herself. And the thing is that both cases took place in the 90s and were before the wide distribution of security cameras. And I feel like that's the big thing that could have made a difference in both of these cases. So that is all that I have for you when it comes to the disappearance of Deborah Deann Poe. And like always with all of my videos, let me know your opinions down below in the comments, because I love hearing from you all. I love hearing your theories. I pretty much read every single comment. And of course, before I end this video, if you want some good, true crime content to read about from a very trustworthy researcher, go check out Crime Blogger 1983's blog. I will have it linked down below in the description of this video. Go check it out, go dive into a few cases. I promise you, he is an amazing researcher. He gets to the point. He does not play any games. He calls people out when they are suspicious and they should be called out on stuff. I just love his style of researching, and I will be working with him in the future on more videos. So thank you, Anthony, for working with me for today's case, and I will see all of you in my next video. Bye, guys.